You're listening to the Franchise Freedom Podcast with Giuseppe Grammatico.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide. And this show is about showing corporate executives how to experience time and financial freedom via franchising. And a very popular topic I wanted to tackle today. It's a question that we get on occasion about the types. What are the types of franchise ownership? So the title for the show today are the 3 types of franchise ownership, and we'll dive in today. So depending on the franchise, and we'll kind of touch base on this, is every franchise will have kind of different characteristics, who they're looking for, whether they are to be full-time in the business, semi-absentee, or part-time. So I just wanted to bring that up kind of the start of the show. So there are owner-operators, and an owner-operator is typically someone that needs to be involved in the business full-time, and that may be for a shorter period of time of 3 to 6 months. It could be indefinitely, but the franchisor really wants that franchise owner to be full-time running the business. Really won't work if you have a full-time job. And again, that is all based off, you can have similar businesses, but it's all based off the requirements from the franchisor. And then we have one of the most popular, which is semi-absentee ownership. So semi-absentee ownership was developed for those that were looking to keep their jobs. And that's a myth that we're going to talk about on the next episode here. But one of the myths was, I need to leave my job to start this business. And semi-absentee ownership allows you to keep your job and have that side hustle, have that side business. So semi-absentee ownership is what we consider part-time. So maybe it's nights, weekends, and a few hours during the day. The hours will vary. I always tell people expect to invest a lot more time in the beginning, getting the business set up, the teams put together, finding a location if needed, and just getting the infrastructure set up. So semi-absentee has been popular for those that are looking to keep their job and their benefits and transition slowly. And others are just looking, they love their jobs, want to keep that job and just run the business on the side as an additional vehicle or investment to generate cash flow for that individual. Within that semi-absentee ownership, there are other types. And so kind of we'll call them subcategories. And those are area developers. And, it's typically someone doing this on the side, but it could be a full-time person. But an area developer is simply someone that is buying or investing in a larger area. They're investing in maybe 3 or 4 locations or 3 or 4 territories in a larger city or larger a larger area near where they live. So area developers, really what they do is they may invest in a large city. Maybe that's 4 or 5 locations or territories, and then they're given a development schedule where maybe they're opening or developing one territory or opening one new location every 6 months to a year. And that's all decided upon when signing the franchise agreement. So it's for someone that wants to lock in their future expansion and say, okay, I want to have these 5 locations in 5 years because I expect to yield X per territory. So you're basically, it's almost like an insurance plan. You're locking in your future expansion so that no one else can purchase those territories or locations from the franchisor. And the other is master franchising. And we're hearing less and less in this, but it still exists. And master franchising, again, can be run full-time, but I see a lot of people running this as a semi-absentee. That's why we put it there as a subcategory. And a master franchisee or master franchisor is simply investing in an area from the franchise company. So it maybe just to make it simple, they're investing in the whole state of New Jersey. And what that would look like is that master franchisee or franchisor would invest in the whole state for one franchise fee. and they would develop the state of New Jersey. Doesn't have to be the whole state, but just for this example, and they'll look for franchisees. And what happens is the franchisees role, master franchisees role, is to find these franchisees, and there'll be some type of split. So every time a new franchisee is brought in, there'll be a split, 50-50, 60-40, whatever that split is between the master franchisee and the franchisor, the corporate office, and then there'll also be a split in the royalty. So these types of businesses, you want to get the franchisees up and running, and then you're collecting a royalty, just like the franchisor, but there's a split, and you'll focus on that geographic area. So a lot more sales and finding franchisees to get you started, and then after that, it's a lot of relationships, working with the franchisees, making sure that they're open, making sure they're successful, and you're their first line of support along with the franchisor as well. So we covered owner and operator, we covered semi-absentee, and then the subcategories of area developer, master franchisee. Again, it can be run both full-time or part-time. And then there's another kind of the third category of the three types, and it's semi-passive or an investor. They also call it an investor model. And these types of businesses, I don't see as many, but this number is definitely growing, where the franchisor is actually running the day-to-day for you. So what does that look like? So the franchisor will run the day-to-day. They'll find the general manager, help find the location, the staff. The franchisee, you as the owner, are going to be putting in time, but that time is going to be much less. It could be, depending on the brand, a couple hours a week, a couple hours a month. They vary depending on the agreement and the requirements from the franchise companies. And really what you're doing is, number one, is you're getting the franchisor running the day-to-day, so you can stay at your job. So, there is a fee. So you'll pay. It could be a percentage. It could be a flat fee. Again, it varies from company to company, but this is more for someone that's treating this as an investment. Maybe it's, instead of putting all your money in the stock market, and mutual funds, bonds, investments, this is another category, or instead of real estate. So less involved, although you will be making final decisions, such as, finalizing a lease or deciding to open up a second location or develop an additional territory. So a lot less time commitment, but keeping in mind that the franchisor is running the day-to-day. Some agreements I've seen, length of time, 5 years, and it's basically they work in 5-year increments. After the 5 years, if you want to decide to go into the second type of franchise and run it more as a semi-absentee, you can kind of take over that day-to-day and running the business. Others will have you renew another 5 years. We've seen other cases where it's a month to month, and then you decide at whatever point you want to have more of an active role in the business. And then lastly, there are other types where it's kind of a hybrid, where they will have a quick launch or fast launch, where the franchisor will help you run the entire business for the first year for that added cost. And that allows you, the flexibility to transition out of your job. Gives you that 12-month buffer to transition into the new business, while the GM and the franchise companies are kind of managing the day-to-day, getting the infrastructure set up for you. So you'll have involvement. Typically, maybe it's a weekly meeting, Zoom meetings, where you're meeting with the general manager and the franchisor to make sure everything is in line. You're kind of managing at a higher level, working on the business, managing and reviewing KPIs, making sure that money's coming in, salespeople are doing their roles, and working closely, again, with the general manager and franchisor. So lots of options. We're going to talk in the next episode about the common myths, but you can do this full time. That's your requirement. And again, we want to make sure it's in line with what the franchisor requirements are. You can run this semi-absentee and part-time, depending on how time sensitive the work is. Maybe it's nights and weekends. Maybe it's an hour or two during the day, and some nights, some weekends. And then the semi-passive investor model, couple hours a month, couple hours a week, depending on the brand and the requirements of the franchisor. So there are all types. You have, there's plenty of options out there. Be more than glad to dive into more detail. But this was a question we received recently on a few occasions, and love to put these shows out and kind of clarify some of the verbiage, the types of ownership, and what we've seen. So any questions, let us know. We have a list of quite a few shows, a dozen shows or more, covering different topics, and would love to get your feedback. And if you have any additional questions, if we didn't cover a certain aspect. So thanks again. Looking forward to your comments and questions, and talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways Giuseppe can help. 1. If you've ever considered owning a business of any kind, you owe it to yourself to get a copy of Giuseppe's book, Franchise Freedom. Download your free copy at ggthefranchiseguide.com/book. 2. Want to understand how successful executives make the transition from corporate to owning their own franchise? Join Giuseppe's next online presentation, Franchise Freedom: How to Escape the Corporate World and Have Financial and Time Freedom by Owning a Franchise, by going to ggthefranchiseguide.com/video. 3. Want to work with Giuseppe one-on-one to identify the right franchise opportunity for you, to navigate the process, and get plugged into experienced franchising advisors? Send him an email to gg@ggthefranchiseguide.com with one-on-one in the subject, and he'll send you all the details.